Chris, is there anything you can tell me about the shot we're setting up for right now?
It's a closed set today. Matt,
Okay, sorry.
The Project Workbench.
My name is Chris White. I am the first assistant director for Star Trek Continues. This episode, the Pilgrim of Eternity. In my real world job, I am an independent filmmaker, producer, director, writer, and I live in Greenville, South Carolina. Well, it's our first day on the bridge, as you can see. So that's kind of cool. We finally got this thing lit up, and you know what? Our whole crew is here now. I guess Grant comes tomorrow, but pretty much everybody's here. So this is the first time we had that moment where you see a fully lit up bridge and you see the gold command tunics and the blue and the red. It just looks so much like Star Trek right now.
Are you pumped?
Yeah, I am. You know that idea, that construct of good cop, bad cop? The theory is on a production that I'm the bad cop that's like mean to people. I'm the person that cracks the whip and makes sure that the film is on schedule, that the shots are accomplished, that the director's vision is implemented, and that we end the production on time and under budget, such as it is.
In that scenario, who would good cop be?
Good cop would be the director. The director is supposed to be, like in this case, Vic. I want Vic to be, not just seem like, I want him to be the good guy who's just creating Star Trek, and I'm the person that's kind of supervising, I'm like the parameters on the interstate, the guardrails, if you will. So we want to have as much fun as we can in these guardrails, but I'm like sitting here like keeping the herd of cats that is a film production like in this area, so we stay on track. Well, we are on the set. This is day 7 of the shoot for Star Trek Continues Episode 1, Pilgrim of Eternity, and we're setting up a shot on the dolly, which means that pretty much the camera is on this track, and it's going to pull back, and the doors are going to open to the transporter room, and I think it's Apollo and McCoy are going to walk in.
Slate 57C, take 2. And set. Action!
Okay, so if I'm trying to keep things on track and keep the thing rolling forward, then one thing is I've got my eye on my watch, like what time it is and what time we want to get done. I want to keep my eye on the script to make sure that all the coverage we need for Vic to edit the film is done. But when you think of a movie set and you think of somebody calling action and cut, usually it's the first AD that's calling action, cut, that sort of thing. Roll sound, that's kind of what I do on the set, so that the director, who in this case the director is also acting, so he can't see everything every moment. So usually while we're shooting, my eyes are on whatever the camera sees. I'm looking at a monitor, thinking about 100 different things for the director, making sure. And so sometimes that might be giving an acting note to an actor, or to Vic, who's also acting. Or sometimes it just may be saying to our wonderful DP, Matt Busey, like, I think that shot was out of focus, or are you getting that shadow that I'm seeing, sort of. But if you come on my set, you should feel like that I'm more of like I'm a manager, but not necessarily an artistic, creative collaborator. Though in some ways I am, but I try to keep that in quiet conversations with the director and the DP and me.
On camera?
Camera rolls, file 449. 44A, take 5.
Action!
The way I got on Star Trek Continues is I have recently cast Vic in a film I'm shooting, which I don't want to say necessarily anything about that project at this point, his role, but he's going to be working on a film I'm shooting in the spring. And so in discussions about him being an actor in that film, he kind of became aware of my work and the way that my wife Emily and I produce films and how we run a set, and he was very intrigued by that, I guess. And at some point he just called me and said, hey, why don't you be assistant director on my film, Star Trek Continues? And I agreed. I said that, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'm 42, so that puts me born in 1970, so just after the original run of the series, but I grew up watching Star Trek and very aware of the Star Trek universe, the characters, and really loved the show, and the motion pictures too. I'm a big fan of the Star Trek movies. So
So do you mean Star Trek?
I don't mean Star Trek. I'm at least knowledgeable enough to know that that would be a bad faux pas. Although I will say this, I'm more of a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan, and there is a detail so small. It's one of those details so small I'm forced to point it out to you. There is a prop on our set that has a secret Star Wars detail. I don't think you'll be able to pick it up watching the movie, but if I meet you, I'll tell you what it is. The kind of projects that I usually work on, the films I make, tend to be, we're going to dispense with the term mumblecore because, like, I don't think anybody, even people who make mumblecore movies, like that term. But essentially, I make low-budget, independent features using DSLR cameras. A lot of my scripts are mostly improvised. The last film I made called Get Better, improvised from an outline, improvised from a sketch of a script. Although some scenes are written. So I'm like the guy that makes sort of quiet, subtly funny, and mostly kind of dramatic films that would be at a film festival, maybe. So I'm like a low-budget artsy filmmaker. Is that cliche enough? Have we really been doing this for 9 days? Yep. Good Lord. You know, the film I'm working on that Vic's going to be in is a comedy, but it's more of a comedy in the style of maybe Little Miss Sunshine, so sort of the quirky comedy. I make small independent movies, and nothing in a studio or something. Like, I would shoot a film here using mostly natural light. My films are real actory. Like, I find like really great actors, and that kind of hang out and we just kind of create scenes together. I think of fan films as like maybe akin to community theater. Like, I want to be an actor on Broadway, but my life has landed me here, but I still like to act. And maybe I saw a production of Our Town that really inspired me. So me and my friends are going to get together. So we're just going to have fun and do Thornton Wilder's Our Town with our friends. We're going to do the play. We're going to invite other friends to come see it. We're doing it for love and for community, right? So when I think of fan films, I think of friends who love something. It's like, hey, our fantasy was always to put on the Star Trek tunic and run around with a phaser in our hand. So let's do that. Where I think Star Trek continues, kind of steps in a different direction than that, is the aesthetic itself, like the way the fan. It's like a fan film on like steroids. It's not a fantasy film. It's like professional people working on it and like aspiring for it to be like an actual real. It's an homage to Star Trek. I see Star Trek continues as fans. Yes, they're fans of Star Trek, but the way they're acting out their fandom is like in taking the things that they become professionals at and applying it to telling a Star Trek story. That's different than some guy who's like, I want to make a Star Trek movie. I'm totally going to Best Buy and I'm going to buy like an awesome HD camera and I'm going to get my friend who's Asian to be Spock or Sulu or something, where you just kind of put it together. I'm going to paint the wall in my garage to look like the corridor, and my fan film is going to be a 3-minute film, a fight with a Klingon and a Star Trek,
Klingon and a Star Trek?
A Star Trek character. When I look at a fan film, I'm going to say, what were they trying to do first? If what they were trying to do was to just kind of celebrate Star Trek with their friends who also want to celebrate Star Trek. Like, I just want to get there, I'm going to put on the pants and the tunic and the phaser and just like run around, and sort of live out my fantasy of standing on the bridge of the Enterprise. And I look at the film and I'm like, you know what? Those people did just that. They accomplished that task. Then I celebrate, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then I walk to the question of, was it worth doing? Yes, of course it's worth doing to have fun with your friends and celebrate the thing you love. So I think that first question of what is the artist trying to do, that's the most important, because if you can answer that, you know, if you're trying to make a film that you think, that you honestly believe is like better, more professional, more important, more valuable somehow than like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek Into Darkness, you know, sequel, you know, if you think that you're working on a level like a Hollywood level, okay, and that's your aspiration, I'm going to work on that level, that Hollywood level, and your budget is like $50, then you're delusional. You're like, you know, so what I would say is you have to like get to align that purpose, that goal. What are we trying to do? You know, and that's why I think with Star Trek Continues, it's kind of interesting, because Vic is saying, I want to create Star Trek with the same production values, essentially, as the original series. And, you know, just looking at it from at least this angle on it, you know, being on the inside, being AD, I think he is succeeding in that. It's the other day, yesterday, a couple of days ago, Vic was really upset because he had found like an actual chewed piece of gum just on the floor in the corridor. And he went on this tirade about like people just, like what kind of people would just put their piece of chewing gum on the floor. And while he's going through this, I was just sitting there like with my arms crossed, like nodding and just like, oh my gosh, this is my gum. I know it was my gum. Because when we came out of the transporter room and we were going to lunch, I took my gum out of my mouth, and I picked up a bunch of stuff, and then I looked down and my gum was gone. And I thought, well, it probably fell, and maybe it stuck to something, and I looked on the floor. I couldn't find it. I didn't know where it was, and apparently it rolled up next to a wall, and Vic saw it and got just furious about it. So I didn't admit it at the time, and that's the secret of the gum.
Yeah.
But to the question of, was it worth doing? Is the art worth doing? I think generally your impulse as a fan to make a film, like to recreate, you know, whatever you're into, Doctor Who, Star Trek, you know, me, BJ and the Bear, you know, the A-Team, whatever the Dukes of Hazzard, your impulse to do that, if you are a creative person, if you're a maker of film, if you're a filmmaker, or you aspire to be that, then I think that impulse is a clue. It's not the answer. It's like the universe, or God, or whatever you believe in, the universe is affirming you and saying, you love Star Trek, you have this urge to go out and make this thing. The universe is telling you that's a good thing. Keep pursuing that. But that is not the answer. The answer is, what will you do with this Star Trek? What will you do with your love of Star Trek? The scene in the episode where Kirk resigns his position with Starfleet and opens a bar on another planet. So he's kind of telling the crew like about his idea for a bar. When I think of a fan film, I think what I'm really thinking about is something that I would describe as a fantasy film. Meaning my fantasy to actually walk around in the world. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, big Star Wars fan, and I had trading cards and little plastic figures, and then some vehicles that went with the little plastic figures. Oh, and I had music, and eventually I had the videotape. So I go and see a movie, and I love it, and it excites me because it's great, epic, operatic storytelling. Okay, so I'm very excited about it. So I want to respond to it. I want to do something with it. I want to do something more than just talk to my friends about it. So what do I do? Well, the first thing that kids have been doing forever is we start acting like that. Like we say, well, I'm going to be Luke Skywalker, or let's keep it to Star Trek. I'm going to be Dr. McCoy. I'm going to be Kirk. Well, if you're going to be Kirk, you should wear a yellow shirt because he wore the yellow shirt, right? And then you're going to be Spock, or Scotty, put on a red t-shirt. I don't have a red t-shirt. Borrow your mom's red shirt and just put it on backwards and you'll be Scott. Okay, so we start playing, right? Or we take the figures and we're like, I'm playing with these figures. Or the cards, and I'm looking at these cards, these still images. So we learn to play in the world, right? We learn to play in the world. And then, at some point, I think it's fair to say most people pursue other things, right? But what they're doing is they're still playing. I think that maybe to make a fan film is similar to that. Like, I want to continue playing in this world. I wanted to continue like having this really charming and kind of almost innocuous journey into this world. And so I don't think it's immature or silly to play in the world. I would say why I'm here to do Star Trek Continues, there's three reasons. One is because my friend asked me, trusted me, said, hey, I'm doing something really hard and ambitious, and I'd like you to help me do that. So, and I have the ability right now to do that. Okay, so I'm like, okay. The second reason is because I figured, looking at, as my friend explained the film to me, I thought, well, I really hate the idea of like networking business-wise, like in the film industry, because like I live in South Carolina, I don't live in Hollywood. I'm more introverted than extroverted, so like I can, if I really try, I can work the room and make connections, but I'm not great at it. It's not like my strong suit. And I thought, well, look, here's a thing that's coming near to where I live. I've been invited to be there, and I bet I'll meet people that will be connections I can use when I'm making a film. I'll meet a grip who will have like a great gear that I can use in my next film. I'll meet an actor it'll be great to have in a film. I'll meet a producer who might have money and want to throw it at my film. So that's my second reason. The third reason is I like to work, and I like to learn, and I like to get better at what I am doing, and that can only happen. I know you're from LA, so I know you know lots of people like this. People who talk about, I'm a writer-director, I'm a producer, I'm a filmmaker. And if you actually looked at their calendar, at their schedule, and you actually looked at the hours they spent in the course of a year actually writing, directing, filmmaking, you'd find that it was like almost nothing. Mainly what they're doing is they're going to parties or getting coffee, or honestly they're just procrastinating writing, going to see movies. They're not really doing it, right? They're not really doing it. So a third reason to be here is because I'm actually using the muscles of filmmaking. So that's why I'm here. My friend, networking, and actually like the practice of being a filmmaker. And you notice in my three reasons I didn't say because I love Star Trek so much. I do love Star Trek. I think Star Trek's great. It was a thrill to actually meet and have conversations with Chris Doohan, whose dad played Scotty. I just thought that was cool, It's been fun to like learn about Star Trek lore and just about the world, more the Star Trek world more than I ever knew. That's not why I'm here. Honestly, if this was a Dukes of Hazzard, fan film, or Doctor Who or Star Wars or anything, I think it's cool to walk down the hall when it's lit, and I'm thinking oh my gosh, this is like a real soundstage in Hollywood in the mid-'60s. This is what it was really like. But I can't speak to other people's motives to do it. I think, obviously with like a Chris Doohan, I would think that he would, it's a way to connect to his dad and his dad's career and his childhood. I think that would be, he's in both Star Trek movies, the new J.J. Abrams movies and stuff like that. I can't speak to everybody, but I'm here because of those three reasons. My thrill of being able to spend time with Michael Forrest is getting to watch an actor from that era in Hollywood work up close and personal, in hearing stories and lore from Hollywood. A little bit of, I'm as interested in Star Trek as, the average person, but mainly, Michael Forrest. To me, he was a Roger Corman leading man, and Roger Corman was like the king of no-budget, low-budget film in the 50s and 60s. So, and that's like a world that I connect with now, So that's interesting to me, hearing about those sets, and also with him, just working with actors, learning about stuff, actors he's worked with, things he's done like that. That's been that's like really exciting to me. I don't know, man. There's some really good actors working in this film, and just being able to sit there and watch them work, and just see like an actor do great acting is like always inspiring and makes me want to do good work. And again, I don't get to see that every day. I aspire to see that every day, but I don't get to see that every day. So it's good to see what it looks like in the room, standing in the room when it's happening. Vic Mignogna, like his in the face, I mean, he doesn't look like Kirk. Frankly, I just think he's a better looking guy than William Shatner. Stylistically, I think he's a better actor than William Shatner. No offense, Mr. Shatner, but I think Vic Mignogna is better. Just technically, I think he's a better actor. But there's something about his hair, the way his hair looks. There's something about the way he embodies the character with just enough, a touch, just that light touch of Shatner, that he's completely credible and believable as Kirk. Todd Haberkorn as Spock. I mean, he's thought about this. He has ideas about Spock. He's not just trying to do a Leonard Nimoy imitation. He's trying to inhabit the character of Spock. And so naturally you think, well, he kind of looks like him. I mean, Todd Haberkorn, let's face it, Leonard Nimoy is like not an attractive man, okay? He's just not an attractive man. Todd Haberkorn, I mean, he has the face of a beautiful newborn baby. He is one of the most beautiful men you will ever. He's one of the most beautiful men I've ever cradled in my arms and actually considered kissing on the mouth. You know, as far as that goes, he's terrific. It's not so much that they're riffing the characters; they're more homaging the characters. If I can turn homage into a verb, and that's that's why I think this is not a sad, pathetic fan film. I think this is a kind of a beautiful thing, kind of fan film, where if you are a true fan of the original series, there's just absolutely on no level will you be disappointed with Star Trek Continues. I think you'll feel like some really talented filmmaking professional friends of mine who also love Star Trek all got together and made Star Trek happen again. They actually did it just right. They did justice to it. I think first of all you have to decide what is it we are trying to do, and you have to be very realistic about this. If some of my best friends in the world, actually one of my best friends in the world is an accountant, right? And if he decided he wanted to make a fan film, and he thought he could make a film, he could create on the level of a professional, filmmaker or something, he would be very disappointed. Just like if I thought I could do my taxes to the level that he can, I would be gravely disappointed, right? So you got to decide what you're trying to do. I think most fan films come from this urge to live the fantasy of being a part of the world, to extrapolate from the action figures and the playing, pretending in the woods, to kind of recording it, to like putting you're actually walking on the bridge of Kirk, that kind of thing. You got to be really honest, and really, frankly, you have to be like honest with yourself about what you're doing, honest with your friends, your collaborators that you're doing this with about what you are actually doing here. Okay, if all your friends are like filmmakers and have cool gear and have ridiculously awesome talent, and they can make costumes on that level, and they can shoot movies on that level, then you're doing something kind of different. Then it gets more on the level of what Star Trek Continues is doing. So fan film, get your objective, get the aesthetic down. Say, this is what this thing is. This is what we're trying to do. And then just execute that to the best of your ability. I mean, be serious about it. Don't just have fun with it. Like, chase it down aggressively. Really try to do what you're trying to. If you just want to have an awesome party where there's great food and great stuff to drink and everybody just kind of plays in the world, then do that. And frankly, put it on YouTube, but don't share it with me, because I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you and your friends I don't even know you guys. I mean, why would I want to watch that? Share it with the people that you know and that think you're cool and you love and respect each other. Hang out with those people, make films for them, and do that. But don't ask me to watch it, because we don't even know each other, right? So decide what your aim is, execute to the best of your ability, and there's nothing wrong with having fun and living your childhood fantasy out and making it real. And there's all sorts of gear. I mean, there's computers and software and cameras that can make that. You can actually do it. It's accessory.